Welcome to the Inner Space Covent Garden talk. Our talk today is Get a Grip on Worry. You know, there's the little worries. What if I'm late? Could be bigger ones. What if it's the wrong decision? If it's not loved ones, health, or work, then it seems that there's always something else that pops up for, that pops up for us to worry about. Worrying gives your mind something to do, but gets you nowhere. It's draining and diverts your time, energy away from what's important for you. I think you'll agree, right? Now, really, it's a good time to get a grip on our worry before it takes control of us. So we've asked our speakers we've asked our speaker today to share how to put worries in perspective, seize the reins of your mind, quieten the mental noise, and restore calm. Our speaker today, Moira, was a surgical nurse and is currently the director of the Brahma Kumaris in Argentina. She runs sessions on values, personal development for organizations in Latin America. Moira is going to be sharing with us for the next 40 minutes or so, and then she'll do a short meditation. After the meditation, she'll be taking your questions. So please send in your questions via the question and answer link, or send it to us via the chat, and it'll be my pleasure to put those questions to Moira on your behalf. Moira, thank you so much for joining us. Over to you.
Thank you, Ati. Thank you very much. So good evening to all of you there. For me in Argentina, it is midday, just after midday. So yeah, this topic of worry, quite very interesting, no? Because the whole world is driven by worry and its two friends, fear and doubt. So anything and everything could be an excuse to worry, to allow that emotion that makes us feel unsafe, out of control of something that we fear could not happen or that could happen. And as you said, sometimes worry comes from the idea that we can lose something, whether it's a dear and near one, whether it is, something happening to my health, the fear that I could get sick, so I'm worried all the time about food or about medicine, so many things. We could be worried because things could go wrong. If you're studying at university, you may be thinking, the possibility of the exam, failing an exam. So you see that they go together. There's this doubt and this fear and worry. It's like emotions that act together. So, and normally when we are worried, we're either in the future, imagining things, many, many things that could happen. And, if you look back, the things that were worrying you last week about what you thought could be happening this week, probably nothing of that really happened. So a lot of the worry when it comes to the future, it's really imagination. It's as if we create many possibilities of things that could happen. And, the mind is cluttered with all these negative possibilities. And then we sail through a situation and we realize that there was really nothing to worry. Nothing to worry. Sometimes we could be worried about things that have happened in the past. And we know that we cannot change the past. So it's really, it's a loss because it's a loss of my time, it's a loss of my energy. And so worry really depletes us. But what it steals from us is our clarity. When we are worried, it's as if, it's like the, the, the screen of a car, when it rains and the I don't know the words in English well, you can't get the window clean to see properly. So you're afraid of everything because everything seems blurred. And so you start imagining things. And so that makes us very vulnerable, and it puts us in all sorts of different types of influence. We can become so dependent on the outcome of a situation, and things. There's a flow. Things are really flowing, and they could go in different directions. But when we are stuck that we want something to happen in such a way, then if it doesn't go in that direction, then we feel worried. And maybe we have to divert into another direction, but because it becomes so tense. Worry makes us very tense, very rigid, and very narrow-minded. Our vision becomes very, very small. And I'm close to someone who worries about literally everything, literally everything. But you know, I consider myself, in Brahma Kumaris, we have a term which I like very much, which is carefree. I consider myself a person who is carefree. And I like, as I was saying before when I was chatting with you, Arti, that I think life is a game. And, like in any game, you never know if you're playing tennis, don't know where the ball's going to come at you, but you just need to train and you'll go after it wherever it is. So there's nothing like controlling anything around me that can guarantee that things can be exactly the way I want them to be. But when we become tense, when we have a very high expectation of something, then we're prone to get deceived because things won't go exactly the way we want. But it's a fun game when life, it's as if it unfolds and we're playing with it. So we have to see at each moment what I have to, decisions that we have to make, which can be very small, insignificant things to very, very important things. But all that only ever happens in the present. So if we want to be carefree, if we want to move out of this emotion that kind of makes us choke, it's we need to be light, we need to be open, we need to be present. And really, where does it all start? It starts with, a wrong or blurred perception in my mind. So worry is only happening in my mind, but because everything, every thought that we think will trigger a feeling and trigger an emotion, then things won't change because we want to oblige ourselves to say, okay, I shouldn't feel like this. We can't oblige ourselves to change a feeling, but we can go behind the feeling to what originates that feeling, to what gives birth to that feeling. And so we come to this amazing dimension of our minds. And so this is where creation is happening. You see, when we see ourselves as a spiritual being, as the one who is thinking, the one who is feeling, the one who is perceiving, then I come back to myself to become the observer of my thinking, And it's very fascinating. For moments, it's quite, surprising to see how much clutter and how much stuff is going on in our minds, the quality of our thoughts, you know, whatever we think, because it creates a feeling. So this is when and where we determine what we experience in life and also what we draw to ourselves. So if we have, you're in any situation, whether it's at school, at work, or within your family environment, and some negative or some adverse situation is going on, you know, that's a fact. Whatever is going on is as it is, but how I see it and how I perceive it depends on, how positive my vision is. If I get stuck with all the wrong about it and I only think about that, then it's not probable that I will see a possibility of change, a possibility of improvement, a solution to a problem. So then I will only be thinking, having these thoughts. So of course I would feel worried about what could happen, what, if it's about health. And we know that, at least I always had this conviction, that we have this healing power in the self, in my mind. If I'm sick and I have a very positive attitude, I will draw people's care. I will heal quickly, and I will create an environment around me, which is, although, in spite of my sickness or my need of care and help, it will be a pleasant situation in which some will help, others receive help, but it's something that still we can appreciate, we can be grateful for. Sometimes, I'll tell you a story. Once I fell off a ladder. I won't tell you what I was doing. It was such a silly thing. But I fell and I broke my knee. And when I went to the hospital, they told me, okay, you have to spend 2 months with your knee. They asked me if I wanted to use a cast, or I don't know what you call it in English, this thing that you can open up, but that keeps your leg like a cast. So for 2 months, and we had a two-story house. I couldn't go up, so we made the sitting room my Zoom. Then we made it my place. We put my bed there. There was a sitting room. It took me a little while to accept, I cannot walk. I literally cannot walk. It was kind of shocking. And I'm such an active person. And okay, I said, I cannot walk, so let me be still. So I was lying on my bed and I thought, okay, what am I going to do? For the first week, I was a little bit, you know, stirred, and not, I was not worried, but I was a bit kind of not using my time in a good way. And I said, wait a minute, 2 months is a long and precious time. So I called some friends and I said, why don't we do a study group? We can all join and we can work around some theme. And then we organized many classes in the sitting room. So the students used to come. We used to move everything around, project things on the wall. And I was in bed. But I had such fun. And then I told my doctor, I said, I have to travel in 2 months' time. I have to travel to Mexico. From there, I'm going to Peru. From there, I'm going to Chile. And I said, do you think I'll be able to travel? And he said, what do you think? And I said, yes, I want to travel. I think I can travel. So everything is about attitude. I could have been, grumpy and complaining and making it difficult for everyone and becoming very demanding and concerned about, how's my knee going to, how is it going to heal? And and I just used it in a different way. So it's a choice, to enjoy this journey of life. And of course, we will be challenged all along. And I think it must be all of you experiencing that our challenges are not becoming smaller, they're becoming bigger. which means I need to grow. I need to be stronger. I need to be smarter. So I need to be wiser. So it's really, there's really nothing to worry, but I need to be clear. So I need that clarity, and I need that, to be able to have depth and, openness, to see things in a broad perspective, to have a vision, a long-term and deep vision of whatever is going on. But for this, I need to take full responsibility for what I'm thinking. And our mind is nurtured by newness, by real, deep, significant perspectives of whatever we're going through. So I need to be very active internally. So it's all happening there in my mind, this creative power of the being or the soul or the energy that we are, that is shaping everything in my life. So, and of course, we have habits. Worrying about everything and anything is a habit as much as fearing or doubting in the self. And it really comes, when we become the observer of this inner world, this creative world that has all possibilities, but it depends how I combine my energy. Then when I become this observer, I start realizing, or I start recognizing my own real strength. So then sometimes worry is a form of lack of faith in myself, lack of faith in people, lack of faith in whatever is happening. We in the Brahma Kumaris call it the drama. The drama is, if you imagine that we are all the human family, we are actors on this universe, on this physical stage. So each one is performing their own part. And what we all express creates like an atmosphere. It creates the story. So this is the drama. So when we have faith in the goodness that there is behind everything, and sometimes it's difficult because things really look bad, really look, they may be wrong, and you say, what's good about what's wrong? It doesn't seem to make any sense. But when we look deeper into the things that went wrong in my life, and we realize that I learned something, that I treasured something that spoke to my heart, that opened a new door to learning, to changing, to doing things in a different way, to using a different quality that I would normally not use. And then you realize there is benefit even in the adverse. Right now at our main center in Buenos Aires, we're on a fourth floor. It's a beautiful French building, and we're on a fourth floor. It's a huge apartment, but there's a terrace, and the top neighbor, well, a lot of water comes into our apartment, just to make it short. And it's been like a 2-year process. So since we bought the place, we've been renovating, and we've been asking for, the administration to take care of this. And they haven't. They haven't, to the point that we had to pay it all, which was a lot of money, a lot of money. And it's been such a struggle with the neighbors of the whole building. Nobody invests in any improvements, so the place is run down, and it's been so adverse, so adverse. And every time I have to meet them, every time I have to go, whether to a meeting in an office or they come, or even now, I'll tell you, this week, after 2 years, this week, they finished. It's over. So now we're painting, we're finishing our renovation. But it's been such a journey. And this is just the example of when you see everything wrong, and we have to see what's good about it. And let me tell you, I learned so much. I learned so much about what I had to transform because I was negative at moments, I was aggressive for moments, and I just came back to myself saying, Moira, you have a choice. You have a choice. This is happening to the house. It's not really happening to you. So, so it's made me think a lot, and it's made me think. This is why I was telling Artie before we started this, um, that I've been working on respect and self-respect, because self-respect is about valuing myself. Do I want to put myself through so much hardship? I mean, things will happen. It's only water coming into the house. It's not a small thing. It's a very expensive thing, but ultimately it's only happening to the house. So can I take that distance? Can I withdraw to a point that I'm able to observe and have the clarity to take the decisions that are necessary to overcome? And it's been such a learning curve. And I see my neighbor as my teacher, he teaches me so many things every day. And so, like, there's this selfishness and so many things that are happening. And yet, when I come down, I say, is it worth losing track of my peace? Is it worth negotiating my happiness? So these are the things that are at play, really. And my own ability to love, to create bridges of understanding that I can walk across and make myself heard or understood rather than just being in a reaction. So when we are not worried, we see so many possibilities. And sometimes we're worried because we don't feel capable of something, but that is not a reason why I should be so unhappy and, insecure. I can take help. I can take the help of something that I need to learn, whether it's a skill or something, but I can also take the help of people who can do it. So we're not alone. We're not alone. And it takes courage. It takes courage because it's the courage to be who I really am and use that amazing energy that lies within me that I can only feel when I connect with myself. This is where, a tool like meditation is so helpful because it's the time that I can give myself to make a pause. Sometimes things may not be clear, but then if I stop and I pause a little bit, make myself, peaceful, cool, that clarity that comes from that inner silence will give me a perspective that I can decide and I can trust my decisions. And others can trust my decisions, or I can trust others' decisions as well. So when we connect with the self, we we become aware that it doesn't matter what tests we have to face, nothing will ever be bigger than my own power to face it and, overcome it. Once I was, we had a very, very, very senior teacher called Daddy Janky. Many of you might have known her. She was a, she was a spiritual giant. She she was like a mentor to all of us and very, very dear in our hearts, someone who inspired us, who taught us so much. She was so peaceful, but very, very firm. She had such clarity. She had this power to discern. And she once told us something that she said, I never worry what I'm going to say. I never worry what I'm going to do. All my attention is in what I choose to think. And this is where our real freedom lies, because we are the creators of every single one of our thoughts. There's nobody here thinking for me. So even if someone is, if your worry comes from some relationship where there is conflict, or you're being mistreated, or in the company of someone's very abusive personality or strong personality, if I can stay connected to my own self-worth, if I can stay connected to my own original power, then that is my safety. And even if someone thinks wrong about me, suppose at work, people don't value your work, or they compete with you to a point that they would try to disregard your success or your goodness. Do I appreciate myself? Do I have a relationship with myself that I know my own value, that I know my own importance? And it's not compared to anybody else. It's just because my original being is so pure, is loving, is true, is peaceful. This is my true nature. But it's when I'm connected to myself that I come from that space. So it doesn't matter if I know who I am, then if I appreciate who I am, if I'm able to value who I know, I can live in my own self-worth, then whether people value my work or not, it won't make a difference. It's not that we are indifferent to people's appreciation, or even, if someone corrects us because there's something that I need to change, or transform or correct. It's okay. It's okay if I value my effort, whatever I'm offering, then it's okay if someone mm, gives me a comment or something. I can accept it, because if we're learning and growing, from a space of humility, accepting anyone's, mm, comment or correction is part of my learning. So it's okay. But it's only the ego that becomes upset when and then maybe the other day I was talking to someone, and we were telling him something that we thought had to change. And so he took it in such a way and said, well, if there's no value in anything I do, and that's not at all what we said. So it's like, if I take things in such a way that I don't give value to things, maybe people do appreciate me, but they have something that they would like to comment or communicate, but it's okay. Relationships become very healthy when we are open and sincere. It doesn't mean that we need to have a kind of pseudo honesty that hurts people, or gives people sorrow, or sometimes we could, from a ego perspective, we could say, well, let me tell you what I think. And maybe you don't even want to know what I think, because what I think is going to hurt you. That wouldn't be respectful. That's not really honest. But when we build safe relationships, and we can be open, and we can be ourselves, and we can communicate, we can ask each other things, then there's so much of the worry is about imagination, what the other one feels, what the other one thinks, and this and that becomes such a, loss of time and energy. And it spoils the atmosphere, it spoils the relationship, it makes our relationships weak or meaningless. And so, but it all starts when I come back to the self, and I keep this powerful relationship and attention on myself. Also, transforming deep, deep habits of worry, doubt, or fear, because I think this family that go together, will take time. It won't happen overnight. And Artie was telling me how did I manage in difficult moments, and I have taken a lot of help from my practice of meditation in connection with the divine, in which, it's the one that has the vision of me that never loses hope. Because if I don't want to react, if I want to be clear, but then again and again, I fall into that thought pattern, into that habit, into that. It's as if it's against my will. It just happens like an automatic pilot because it's been a way of doing oh, for a long, long time. So for me, meditation has become like a very interesting lab in terms of knowing the self, also in terms of um, learning how to empower myself. And this is where meditation in connection to the source is so important because we when I have been under the vision of ego, when I say ego, what I mean is a distorted identity or a distorted image of who I am. It's like ego mm, thinks that I am this body, but I am the being in the body. Ego would probably value me for what I have, or would discard me for what I don't have, would define me for what I do, as if I was my roles or my responsibilities, which I'm not. I'm the one doing, I'm the one who takes responsibility, but I'm not the responsibility itself. I am the thinker. I am the one who is the creator of what I do, the creator of my expression. So when I step into this vision of who I really am, is when I understand my power and my nature. So connecting to a source of that power is so important because when we become a self-observer, we will see or we will perceive two very, very strong voices. It's a voice of conscience talking, expressing my truth, what I think is right, what I think is good for me, what is good for others, that which I can trust in. But there's also the other voice, the voice that comes from my habits of duality, the voice of ego, that makes me doubt, that creates, this imagination of and the one thing that is so interesting to know is every thought is a seed, and as is the seed will be the fruit. So as Daddy Yankee was saying, I just take care of what I think because then all the rest will be a consequence of that. If I have good thoughts and good feelings for myself and for others, then the way I connect with others will be accordingly. The way I feel for others will be accordingly. And the way I relate to others will also be accordingly. So it's like, if you have a fruit orchard and you've planted your plums, your peaches, your nut trees or whatever, you will only get plums and peaches and nuts. You won't get anything else. So as is the seed is the fruit. And this is such a powerful law of the universe. So when we connect to that and we take care of the seeds that we're planting in the garden of my mind, then there really isn't anything to worry about. Daddy used to say, I don't worry about the future because I live in the present. My present is so beautiful, so powerful, so meaningful. Then then it's like life will just surprise you with the fruit of that. And then it's not that it accidentally happened or it's the fruit of your good seeds. It's the good of your good thoughts, your good feelings, your good words, your good actions. But in order to choose the right thing, this is where we need the power to discern, the power of truth. And this is why this connection to the source, because the source, however you choose to call that energy, the supreme energy of light, of might, of the 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 power of truth, the power of love, or the source of peace, when that energy touches the soul, touches my core being, it awakens that which is lying within me, which has maybe been there always, and it's been kind of dormant, or I have only known a little bit about that, but I don't know how powerful I am, how pure I am, how loving I can be. What is my full ability to care, to give, to offer, you know? And how stable can I remain in face of anything? So sometimes we are stable, sometimes we shake, sometimes we doubt, sometimes we are afraid, so we don't have the courage. Sometimes we're so worried, we just we have no, we're confused. And so when we start practicing meditation and we we connect with this pure source of light, the love of God, the love of the divine that holds such a pure vision of me, then it's as if I know myself through that vision of trust, of hope that sees the real me, that doesn't get, confused with my ego. How much can your friends know you? How much do your parents know you? They know you for whatever much time they've spent with you, however much they have connected to you. But that is how long? Not that much. But we are so profound. There's so much about us that nobody knows, not even myself. So awakening to my my real power, my real essence requires this help that I'm able to. It's not that I need to believe in it just because, someone tells me. It's that I need to be able to perceive it. I need to be able to feel that. I need to be able to experience who I truly am, who I truly am. And if you're going through some harsh moment and you have lost hope in yourself and you meet someone who loves you deeply, really, and who knows you as much as they do. And when they speak to you and when you tell them what you're going through and they look at you with hope and they tell you it's not a big thing, there's nothing to worry. Maybe I made a mistake. It's okay. You can let go. You can move on. You can forgive yourself. You can repair. So there's really nothing to worry. And they make you feel safe. They make you feel loved. They make you feel seen by them. So then what does that awaken? It awakens this trust, this hope, and this self-worth that it's okay, I can move on. So if a friend can do that, what can't God do with me? When he knows my eternal existence and he knows my highest aims. So he sees me for what I am, not he's not entertained even with how I find myself, if I'm sad or confused or afraid. That doesn't stop him from seeing who I really am. And so I think that when we start, meditation is a very, very powerful practice, that it's giving myself attention, looking inward and connecting to that incredible energy that lies within and connecting to a source that awakens that empowers that possibility of my experience of who I truly am. It gives me back my freedom. And even if things are threatening, and I want to finish with a little story. Once in Brazil, in a city called Belo Horizonte, we have a student called Tanya. She was 15 those days. She was living in a very vulnerable neighborhood. She used to come out in her school uniform with her backpack, came to our meditation center for her morning class and then go to school. And she was walking alone in this dangerous area. And there were many things that she could have been worried about, but she was just walking very peacefully, and she had wrapped her head in some shawl, and she heard steps coming closer and closer and closer to her. And suddenly, a man jumped in front of her like this and said, "Are you not afraid?" He yelled at her. And she looked at him and she said, "When I was alive, I was." And the man, he ran away. He must have thought that he had met a ghost. Can you imagine? Now, Tanya could have been worried that she was on her own, and she was on her own, but she was not worried. She was peaceful. And even if you are in a dangerous situation where you have no control, if you are cool, calm, and connected, you will do something, even if it's irrational. What she said was very irrational, intuitive. And so even even there's really nothing to worry, even if we are in the worst of situations, because even if I don't know what to do, I'll get that help. So being connected to the self, connected to the divine, will make me carefree. And I personally find that this is such a game, because then it doesn't really matter. I don't need to, to know what's going to happen. We just sail through it, and then you just see. And sometimes it's easier, sometimes it's less, but it's always only a game. And it doesn't really matter if we're playing tennis. It doesn't matter if we win or we lose. It's just that it's good to play, right? So I'll stop here, and we can do a little meditation if you like. And then there's a little time for some questions if you have. So let's go. Let's take a deep breath, and let's make sure that our body is relaxed and comfortable. So as we inhale, we will relax the legs and our arms, our shoulders. And as we exhale, let me feel I'm letting go any discomfort. Let me take a deep breath, and let me exhale. Let me let go of any negative feeling. Let me feel that I'm relaxed and ready. And I'll take all my attention inward. I'll go into my inner world, to a sacred space behind my eyes. This is where I, the being of light, this is where I am. Feel your presence there with you. Feel the lightness of your being. And I am able to observe myself as a spiritual energy, so different from my body. This is the energy that is expressed through my eyes and through my smile. This is the energy that expresses every attitude. This is me, living pure spiritual energy. The one who is cool, calm. And as I go deep within myself, I go into the feeling of lightness, a quiet, calm, peaceful energy of me. This is who I am, a peaceful being. And in this awareness, I feel safe, I feel stable, Nothing and no one can ever stop me from being who I am, a peaceful being. And in this awareness, I can see clearly. It doesn't matter what is going on around me, what is happening, or people's behavior or attitudes. I am me, a peaceful being. And as I remain in this awareness, I'm able to respond. I'm able to protect myself. And I keep myself safe from influence, from worry, from tension. And as I go deeper and deeper into silence, I go beyond anything that is limited and mundane. I go beyond even my body into an awareness in which I see myself as a being of light, just pure, silent light. In the presence of the source of peace, the supreme light, the ever pure, loving, supreme being. And I allow the vibrations of his peace to go into every corner of my being. Setting me free from anything of the past, cleansing the soul, allowing me to be who I really am. Just me, powerful, peaceful, loving. And in this awareness, in the joy of being who I am, who I truly am, I will come back to my awareness. And I become aware of my breathing. And as I inhale, take a deep breath. And I exhale, peace, allowing the living force of peace to go into every cell of my body. I allow the light of peace to shine all around me. Thank you.
Moira, that was beautiful. The meditation just really helped us connect with ourselves, but also with that divine. That was very beautiful. But also the stories you told and the examples you gave, and the storyline on how to really divert away from worry. that there are options. So thank you so much for that. There
Mhm.
are a few questions that have come in. The first one I'd like to put to you, if I may, is how do I connect to myself? Somebody is asking. And it's very interesting because I know I need to be patient. But I also see myself and identify with myself as that impatient person because that's the majority of the time my responses come from. So, how do I connect with myself so that I step away from the parts of me that aren't my truth, but are what I'm living?
Right. Well, you see, you're already doing it. The fact that you have this question and that you want to connect is already the first step to have this pure intention because um, knowing the self and connecting, creating a relationship with myself requires me being a little bit more introspective, you know? And normally we spend the whole day looking outward, what I'm doing, who I'm with, coming and going and engaged. And when we want to know ourselves, we we need to look within. And it's like starting a conversation with the self. I like asking myself three questions, like where are you at? Where am I at? How am I doing? And maybe in terms of my happiness, maybe in terms of my self-satisfaction or anything that you want to know. And, where am I at? What do I want? What would I want to experience at this point in my life? Maybe you want to change things. Maybe you're tired. Maybe you need to be more organized or more balanced. So this is what I want. I want to be balanced, let's say. So then if this is what I want, what would I need to do in order to be able to do that? So it starts with a conversation uh, with the self uh, and looking inward. And definitely, well, I could tell you about my own journey. Many years ago, I had so many questions in my mind. I needed to stop and I wanted to make my mind peaceful, but I had no clue how I could do that. Well, I was lucky enough to run into the Brahma Kumaris in India. I was backpacking, and this is where I did my course in meditation, which I strongly recommend. It can happen online or in person if you're close to one of our centers, but where you can go through, we need knowledge. It's not just mere perception. It's about proper and deep understanding of the soul that I am and my qualities and understanding how we function. How does our consciousness function? This creative power of the mind, this power of discernment that we have, how we take decisions and why our past is always invading our present, how to transform our habits. It's something we can learn systematically, and it's like a full science. This is what the Brahma Kumaris Spiritual University is all about. Understanding the self in full details and understanding, the thought patterns that we have been um, the influence of, and how we are free beings naturally, but we've lost that freedom because we've disconnected with the self. So a first step is going inward and talking to yourself, observing yourself, appreciating the goodness of yourself. And and if you can take a meditation course, it would be very, very helpful because mm, the self is complex. It's an eternal living energy. Uh, and it's playing a beautiful part. The reason why we are here is so important, so profound. So that connects us to identity, to belonging, to purpose, like makes every day very meaningful. So I would strongly recommend that, um, you know, look within, talk to yourself, and then try and take a meditation course and see the goodness of, your qualities. There are many things that we need to transform, but look at the goodness in you. That's the real you. That's the one that wants to be expressed freely. So we have to dive deep within.
Thank you. Um, we are almost out of time, but I was wondering, there are a few more questions I'd
Yeah,
like to put to you.
yeah,
Uh,
happy to do.
is that okay? Good.
Yeah,
So
sure.
the next question that I have, how do we become free from ego? It causes so much inner pain, self-doubt, worry, etc. How do I take care of my thoughts? And so, yeah, how do I take care of my thoughts? How do I relate to myself so that my new or the identity I'm creating becomes bigger than the ego itself? So that's one part of the question. The second part is, how do I not relate to the ego of others?
Yeah, yeah, that's $1 million question. Um, well, what we learn in Brahma Kumaris is that, overcoming the ego needs to be transformed into self-respect. In fact, because we have only been very extroverted and identifying with what we are not really, then the ego became very, very powerful and it has ruled our lives for a long, long time. So we are very used to its voice. And it's the voice that compares me with others. It's the voice that disregards me. It's the voice that makes me feel superior or inferior. So it has so many facets. So, bypassing the ego and seeing what is behind it, what is the original, will take a lot of attention on myself and 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 trust in my true original goodness. We are under the influence of ego, as we could also be under the influence of anger or attachment. This is this is not the original. This is not the original me. It's just an acquired behavior because it's as if I became ego is like I like to compare it with amnesia. Like if you're asleep and so the original awareness has become asleep, and so ego is there ruling my life. It's like a blind trying to rule the blind. But when we awaken, when the inner eye of consciousness awakens, I will start seeing the difference. Ego will only ever um, see the difference between good and bad, but the inner eye sees the difference between what is real and what is illusion. So slowly, slowly, we start recognizing the voice of truth that I am, and the voice that speaks my my true nature, that expresses my true nature. So we sometimes ego is not so easy to identify. We identify it more easy when we suffer because that it's only ego that suffers. I like to think of something like the soul can observe the ego, but the ego can never observe the soul. And the soul is what I am, the energy is what I am. So it takes a lot of attention on the self and and this relationship, this pure desire just to be me, just to be me, and then recognizing that, whenever I'm in pain, that's not natural. Suffering is not natural. It's just an ego creation. Also, when we are affected, because we are affected by my ego, we are affected by other people's ego. Because as we develop our self-respect, which is knowing who I truly am, understanding my qualities, and being able to express my virtues. When you want to be kind, you are kind. When you want to be humble and open and learn, you are able to be that. When the original self is freely expressed, we start trusting us and trusting the self. So self-respect is this awareness of my real value and the importance of my, valuing what I for what I am, not for what I do. What I do doesn't add any value to me. It's because I am valuable that I can do whatever I do. You see? So an ego perspective and a perspective of self-respect. So we start working on that vision of me as the original being of light, a loving being. When we are selfish, this is the ego expression. When we manipulate people, it's an ego expression. It's a creation of the ego. But love, caring, we start seeing the truth of our qualities and how happy they make me, how happy they make others when it touches their lives. And we start identifying. An ego can dress, very beautifully, and but ego always deceives me. When I expect things from people, that's an ego perspective. When we accept and respect, this is a soul conscious perspective. So this is my self-respect. When people criticize me, if I can stay in that um, awareness of who I am, then maybe they're saying something which is correct. I may have made a mistake, but if people just criticize, because it's also a habit, so I don't need to take it, but I will only not take it or be affected by it when I'm in my self-respect, when I have worked and given myself enough time, enough attention, and also, this relationship with the Supreme makes me feel so worthy of His love, pure love, that sets me free from so many forms of dependency, depending on people's opinion, depending on people's approval. All these things are ego games.
Mm, thank you. The very next question kind of builds on this a little bit, I think. How do you deal with the cognitive distance of choosing to have a better attitude despite going through a prolonged negative experience?
Yeah. Well, I think that when we have a pure intention, uh, when we have a good aim of growing or transforming or just being real, um, maybe the vision I've held of me has been a failure or not capable, and that's been for a lifetime maybe, but something within me, because there is a truth that lies within me that will always speak its truth. So there's always that hope that I can always be better, that I can be happier, that I can be more peaceful, that I can be more powerful. So where is this coming from? It's coming from the core being. It's the one that I've always been and I will always be. So even if these long-term kind of identities that we have created, and it may not be only that I have seen myself like that, but everybody else sees me like that. Let's say people see me as a failure, and I've failed several times, so I don't have much hope in myself. But there's something about me that says that I can change, that I can grow, that I can be, everything can be different, that I can succeed. And maybe nobody trusts that. It doesn't matter. It's good enough if I feel that, but then I need to connect with the one who knows for sure that that is true. And I feed on that vision and I feed on that relationship that will protect me basically from the ego and basically from any other influence that could make me doubt, fear, or even worry on my way. I need to be determined and just trust, because that is coming from a place of truth. There is a source to that inspiration, which is me. It's what I am. You know, everything else, every negative emotion is an acquired behavior. We are not angry people. We are peaceful souls, but we become angry. So we learn that. We learn that because we've lost contact with the self. We lost contact with the source and we became weak. But, we're not, if you have a crystal and it becomes some fault in it, it's bashed. It cannot be repaired. It has to go to an outlet. But a soul uh, is not faulty. A soul can be empowered. A soul is only weak, but it can become powerful. So, and the fact that I think of that possibility just proves that that's what I am. Otherwise, where would that thought come from? If it had nothing to do with my original nature, it wouldn't even come into my mind as a possibility. So we have to be determined, we have to be patient, but most of all, be courageous and be determined to have fun on the way.
Thank you. The last question I'm going to put to you this evening, and everybody, I'm so sorry we're not going to be able to get through everybody's questions, but the last one is, can you define the divine?
The divine. Well, when I'm referring to the divine, I would be talking about God or Allah for the Muslims, or the Father for the Christians, the Father of all souls of humanity, the source of power, the source of love, unconditional love, the source of truth, of infinite peace, and the one that is ever, ever pure. The divine is the only energy that never, ever changes, is always, always, always loving, always, always peaceful, always pure. If you think of the soul, we go through a polarity, which is, we are happy, we can be unhappy, we can be plentiful, and we can be empty. If we think of matter, matter can be in chaos or it can be in order. But this energy of the source is ever, ever, ever pure, ever, ever loving. So the fact that he is unchanging is what makes him the source that can bring us back to where we want to come. So he is the catalyzer of our awakening. He is the one, if I'm confused and I am in the light of truth, I will become clear. If I am empty, I'm in the light of unconditional love, I will become fulfilled. If I am, peaceless, imbalanced, shaking, fearful, I'm in the light of peace, I will become peaceful. So he's the source. He awakens. The soul is like a seed. The soul contains all its full potential of quality, of power, spiritual power. But when it's in contact with the light of the source, like seeds in nature, a tree, when you put it in the soil and the sun touches it, it expresses the whole tree. So God is the one, or the divine being is the one that touches the soul and awakens the expression of the full potential of who we are. So this relationship as the one from whom I can learn, the one who can guide me, the one who can protect me, the one who can forgive me and hold me like a mother, or has the highest hope of a father in my own best version, the expression of my own best version. So meditation, I like to not talk about meditation. I like to talk about remembrance. We only need to remember who I am because I forgot, and I need to remember who I belong to because I forgot. But then when we remember, what is established is a relationship with the self, with the divine, and with all my fellow human beings. It's relationship, also with nature. This is the real yoga.
Thank you. Thank you for taking us through such a journey and making it very powerful and very inspirational. So many people have said that. So thank you.
Thank you, Arti. Thanks for inviting me.
Um,